Owen's here now for a business update. Hello again, Owen. Starting with some mixed trading in Asia.
Yeah, the Nikkei did manage to finish the day closed just before we got on air, Claire. Just around 0.1% up. Fairly choppy trading. Lots of manufacturing data coming out of China. Once again, giving investors a mixed picture. Most seem to agree that it suggests that the Chinese economy is on course to slow down. But just how dramatically really is anyone's guess right now. You can see there the Hang Seng and the Shanghai Composite both in the red right now, still trading.
And while we're talking markets, Amazon proves that it's still a pretty rough climate for retailers.
Yeah, it is, especially when you're really the only retailer or the only manufacturer of tablet computers that can give the iPad any sort of competition right now, and that's proved to be the case for Amazon. We've seen its profits for the last quarter down nearly 60%. We knew it was going to be a difficult quarter, fourth quarter for Amazon. Sales absolutely fantastic, no problem there. The problem is the Amazon founder Jeff Bezos has been deliberately lowballing the price of those Amazon tablets, the Kindle Fire, which came out last year, simply to try and get people buying these things and try and give Apple something of a run for their money. But that means narrow profit margins, really squeezing the bottom line, not great for investors. So you've seen their profits down for the last quarter.
Right, next, finding friends on Wall Street for Facebook. The social networking site won't comment on its plans to float, reportedly this Wednesday, but that hasn't stopped an investor frenzy reaching fever pitch. Karen Creed has more.
One small step, but it would be a giant leap forward for Facebook's fortunes. 8 years since the social network was set up, it's due to make its debut on Wall Street. It's expected to file documents this Wednesday for an initial public offering of stock. It's the most anticipated tech IPO since Google went public in August 2004, one that would be valued between $75 billion and $100 billion. At the reported price, it would be the biggest for a US internet company ever, and puts it in the ranks of the largest public companies in the world alongside McDonald's and Amazon. It would also bring a welcome boost to the IPO market. But Facebook officials have refused to comment on the expectation that it's set to get paperwork underway. The hype, however, has already resulted in shares of internet and social networking companies to rise. If it does go ahead with initial proceedings this Wednesday, it will take at least 3 months to issue the IPO and could become a very lucrative birthday gift for its billionaire founder Mark Zuckerberg, who turns 28 in May.
So as you heard there, no confirmation that Facebook will float, but we'll keep an eye on that one for you. And of course, give you the details on that as and when it drops. Let's leave Facebook for now and get a few more of the day's business headlines for you. Investors in Greek bonds are being offered a sweetener tied to the country's revival to offset their potential write-downs. Sources quoted by Bloomberg say bondholders will receive a GDP product warrant that would pay out if the Greek economy rebounds. It would mean investors accepting a haircut 3% interest rate on new 30-year bonds as part of a new bailout deal for Greece. Some investors are continuing to hold out for at least 3.5%.
China appears set on maintaining the deadlock over its control of key raw materials. The government has been found guilty by the World Trade Organization of illegal export restrictions that hiked up prices on metals like magnesium and zinc. A Ministry of Commerce official quoted by the China Daily said officials were ready to face the WTO's ruling, but did not say if controls would be eased.
And European competition commissioners are expected to veto the NYSE Group Deutsche Börse merger later this Wednesday. The deal to create a single transatlantic group has stalled amid EU concerns that it will stifle competition. The two companies have refused to sell off parts of their derivatives business as a precondition for the merger.
Now, its missions over Libya gave it an unrivaled shop window, yet France has never been able to find a foreign buyer willing to buy the Rafale fighter jet. But the Indian government could be about to change all that. William Hildebrand has more.
A widely awaited decision after a drawn-out bidding process. Dassault has entered exclusive talks to provide Rafale fighter jets to the Indian government. It's been held as a boost for France and a life-saving deal for Dassault.
I hope everyone in France understands that this proves when you have a good product and you throw your support behind it, you can win in extremely competitive markets.
India has become the world's largest weapons importer as it tries to modernize its Navy and Air Force. The €15 billion project plans for 18 planes to be built in France and the remaining 108 in India. The deal has yet to be finalized, but officials hope to sign contracts by the end of March. It would be the first sale of Rafale aircraft to a foreign buyer and serve as a boost for France's aviation sector.
For the French company, it's really not only a symbolic move, but it's also a test and a way to prove that they can operate on a very large scale and change the balance of power in this region.
Dassault has had trouble marketing the Rafale. Critics have called it too expensive and outdated. But France is hoping this deal provides momentum to find more buyers of its flagship fighter.
Well, as we heard there have been plenty of false dawns for this jet, Claire. President Nicolas Sarkozy knows that only too well. He went to Brazil a couple of years ago thinking he had a deal for the Rafale sewn up, only for Brazil to choose another supplier. A little earlier, we asked our correspondent in New Delhi that, bearing in mind all these false dawns, how long it would be before we saw any sort of meaningful deal for the sale of this jet.
At the moment, we only have an announcement that Rafale is the preferred bidder. We don't actually have anything signed yet. And anyone who knows what it's like doing business in India knows that it can take a long time. In fact, the Times of India newspaper today, it said we could be looking at 4 or 5 months down the line before a deal is signed. Once a deal is signed, though, Dassault's really going to have their work cut out for them. They've got 126 planes to deliver, 18 of which have to be on Indian soil in just 36 months.
That was Natasha Butler, our correspondent in New Delhi there, reporting on that deal for the Rafale. Nothing signed in stone just yet. We'll keep an eye on that for you. I'll have more as well on the whole Facebook IPO. Just after 9:15, already a lot of naysayers saying this stock is way overvalued and will disappoint a lot of investors, a bit like Google did when it floated back in 2004. So I suspect there'll be lots of people sitting this one out to see exactly how it performs. The problem with Facebook is they never really tell us what kind of results they have. We never really know how it's performing. And the fundamental question for any investor is, can this website make money? Remember, Facebook has run into trouble in recent months with the US government over privacy issues. It's the kind of thing that advertisers really need. They basically want people's Facebook details so they can target advertising. But there's been some concern over how much Facebook can give those advertisers. So that will be a key question for any investor thinking about buying this stock. But we'll get into that at just after 9:15.
And I've noticed more and more people going off Facebook, leaving Facebook.
Indeed, yeah. Maybe it's reached its peak as well. And that's another thing that investors will be looking at. Where is the growth for this website? Remember, there are plenty of websites that can compete against it. You've got Google Plus now as well, which has done very well. Launched around 6 months ago. Maybe it's reached its peak. But, well, as is always the case, the markets will have the final word on it.
We'll wait and see what the markets have to say. Thank you very much, Owen. That's it for business, and that's it for this half hour of Live from Paris. Do stay tuned. All the latest world headlines coming up with Stuart in just a few minutes' time.
PIP, 3 letters which stir up fear in any woman with breast implants. This week we'll follow the repercussions of this global health scare, starting here in France, where hundreds of women have already opted for an urgent explantation.
Don't miss Health today, 10:15 a.m. Paris time on France 24. Get into the rhythm of African soccer. Africa Cup Fever until February 12th on France 24.